The Champions League matches this week that just passed. It was the second round of Champions League fixtures, and one game that was vitally important and maybe even a little instructive to me was the Barcelona versus Bayern Munich game, the Bayern Munich versus Barcelona game. In fact, there was a. It seemed to me that just before that game, a lot of people were starting to praise Xavi for the amount of work and output and results that they were starting to get. Not only were Barcelona winning games, but they were playing football that was akin to the good old days of Barcelona's heydays of tiki taka. Xavi obviously is a La Masia product. He played under Pep Guardiola. He buys into the philosophy wholeheartedly. He's one of their own. So why was it that it felt like Barcelona huffed and puffed and never quite blew down the house for that Bayern Munich built? In fact, after the first half, Bayern Munich found ways to beat their press, found ways to counter very directly, and has been typical of Barcelona, no matter how many passes they've created, no matter how slick, no matter how good the players like Dembele show their skills, all it takes for any strong or good, capable team to beat them is to put together incisive counterattacks that split open the defense. And then the issue of not having enough goal scorers, not having clinical goal scorers, we thought was going to be resolved for big games such as this one by having Robert Lewandowski. Robert Lewandowski had every opportunity and, in fact, had all the motivation to go against his old club and score at least one or two goals. Even if Barcelona didn't win, if Barcelona had managed to put a goal past Neuer, it would have shown progress. My question is Barcelona's development already being overhyped? Or was that just a fluke, a blip in the process?
I think it's been overhyped, and I'll tell you this is because look, when you have the kind of talent that they have in their squad right now, then they're bound to beat teams like Rav, Valladolid, and Cadiz, and the likes, right? They faced a couple of tests. I think they've had three big tests. I can say Real Sociedad, which they did win, although in the first half they were poor. They needed to make some subs in the second half to get a victory against Sevilla. The first 20 minutes of the game, Barcelona struggled, but they did, eventually find their grip on the game with Usman Dembele and Lewandowski, and against Bayern, which was the third big test and the biggest of the three. So eventually, maybe in the second half of the season, maybe next year, it might get better, depending on how good the manager is. But I think that at the moment, they're just enjoying a lot of, the quality of the players that they have right now. Now, that is not to suggest that Xavi Hernandez is not a good manager. I don't know how good he is. If you ask me to what degree he's good, I'll probably not be able to answer. But this is when he proves his mettle, having all the right tools, the different profile of attackers, the different profile of midfielders, and the numerous defenders that he has. How then does he create a solution? But their development clearly is being overhyped. Quickly, at the back, he still doesn't know what his best back four is. Does Kunde play on the right or in the middle? Is it Christensen? Is it Eric Garcia? Is it Ronald Araujo? At left back, he has used three different left backs now this season in just about 8 or 9 games. Alonso played the game against Bayern that we're talking about. He's used Alejandro Balde. He's also used Jordi Alba, who has started twice. In midfield, doesn't know what his best midfield is yet. There's Frank Kessié, Sergio Busquets, whom I think Bayern Munich took advantage of in the second half with the intensity when they brought in Leon Goretzka. He has Pedri, Gavi, Frankie de Jong, and then the six attackers, we all know about them. 7, in fact, when you add Memphis Depay. So for a club that still doesn't know what their best 11 is yet, or what their best maybe 7 or 8 is yet, I struggle to understand why a lot of people are classing them as being one of the best teams in Europe. They're going to win the Champions League. Maybe a little bit of chill, right? It might happen eventually, but at the moment, to answer your question, I think that the development is being overhyped.
What they felt about the game.
The game, the Bayern Munich game.
Yes, I want to find out what our everyday, because we were on the streets and we also asked this question from people. What was their opinion of how the match went? So let's hear from them.
Barca have improved because what they are playing now, even is narrow escape that the Bayern nearly win. Because what Barca play in that match, they really try. And I mean, I'm seeing in the second leg, Barca will beat that Bayern money. They will beat them hands down because I believe in Barca because this Xavi coming to Barca have improved Barca. They have really showed that they can even carry the Champions League. The way I'm seeing them, the way they are playing, they can even carry the Champions League.
The problem there is maybe their pattern of playing. They depend on the same pattern of they have been playing over and over, even when Messi was still there. But I think if they can improve and change the pattern, it will be okay for the Bayern Munich to beat them again. It's like over and over. Last season they beat them home and away in Champions League. This season again. Come on.
You know, on paper, with the kinds of players that Xavi has at his disposal, obviously it seemed like before that game that the match could go either direction, even with Bayern playing at the Allianz Arena. And should they go to Camp Nou and then devastatingly beat Barcelona, it will damage the positivity that has been going around the club, the positivity that is starting to pick up amongst the fans. I want to bring in Gboyega on this. It seems we're still yet to have Gbenga available. But Wale, if we talk about the quality of players available to Xavi, if he's unable to win anything this season, because when you're one of the top 2 clubs in Spain, a trophy is important every season. But even a Copa del Rey isn't usually good enough for Barcelona, for any manager. If Real Madrid goes on and picks up the league and then the Champions League, it's never enough for a Barcelona manager to pick up just the Copa del Rey. My question is, if Xavi doesn't win anything this season, is the club going to still be ready to believe in that long-term project that they recruited him and promised the fans was the agenda for them?
Well, I mean, if they don't win anything, then they're in a big mess, because I'll tell you, it's not just a long-term project. There's also a very critical short-term implication of not winning anything this season, because we seem to forget, because they are winning games on the pitch, that they have mortgaged some parts of their future in terms of some of their TV broadcast rights to sign the players that they brought in now. So Lewandowski is not a long-term project. Frank Kessié is not a long-term project, right? Christensen, Alonso, these aren't long-term projects. You know, these are players that the club, has brought in right now to try to win right now. So Rafinha, for instance, that they signed for about 60 million. So look, Barcelona have to win. They are condemned to win. It is a very difficult situation they found themselves. Would they trust Xavi if they don't win? I think that would be the lesser of their problems, because again, like I said, the financial issues that they find themselves means that the brand has to bring itself back into the top echelons of European football, so they can attract the kind of finances that they used to a decade ago. So on the pitch, I think that they'll be fine. The Bayern Munich game, as much as I think that they are being overhyped, their development, we should also not exaggerate the impact of the loss. I mean, it's Bayern Munich. They're still one of the best sides in Europe, you know. So for me, look, I think that Barcelona would win something this season. I don't know if it's going to be La Liga or the Champions League, but the expectation, the minimum expectation for Xavi with the squad that he has is to win the league and to go far in the Champions League. At least maybe the semi-finals, and that would be a good season. If not, then there might be questions, definitely.
The fact that they've mortgaged away so much of their future in financial gains in order to bring in these players. If this was any other club at any other time, um, just competing would be enough. But if when given that even if it's Barcelona for us to expect that a team that has just been assembled, a team with as much quality as they do have, but a team that has just been assembled, a backline that is basically brand new, the strike force that is 50% brand new, and youngsters who are still finding their feet. And Sufati is just not too long ago back from injury, and even though he's proven that he still got his goal scoring touch, he still got to fight hard to break into that team. Is it reasonable though, even though we know what is expected for Barcelona, is it reasonable to expect that much from a team that has just been assembled as this one has?
Well, I mean, the question for them is no longer about reason. They threw reason out of the window when they mortgage their future finances. You know, so I am speaking to the reality. To answer your question, maybe not so reasonable because personally, my analysis of the loss against Bayern Munich, I think that there was a lot of pressure placed on two teenagers in Barcelona's midfield against Joshua Kimmich, one of the best midfielders in the world, Marcel Sabitzer, and of course in the second half, Leon Goretzka. And of course, Jamal Musiala was just running rings around Sergio Busquets. You know, so with Gavi in midfield, Pedri in midfield, and Sufati on the left-hand side, you know, a lot of youngsters. I agree with you. Is it reasonable? Maybe too much pressure. You know, maybe you have a point, Mukai. But unfortunately, I mean, this season and maybe by extension next is not so much about reason for Barcelona. It's about results. That's a different R from the one that you are bringing up. Results, not reason.
I want to bring in Gbenga on this quickly. Gbenga? Gboyega. Unfortunately, it seems we're still having issues bringing him on.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Can
Oh,
you hear
hello,
me?
Gbenga. Quickly, I want you to get in on this discussion before we have to move on. The fact is, Barcelona have so mortgaged away their future, some would say. If Xavi does not win anything this season, there was a story report during the summer that Bayern Munich were worried that any deal to bring in Lewandowski that had the payment split into portions, Barcelona might not exist as a club next season in the future and therefore wouldn't be able to pay that amount of money. If Barcelona doesn't win, if the amount of money necessary, because they would next season have to reduce their wage bills again to compensate, but not winning any titles, any trophies, will hamper their ability to pay off and meet those La Liga wage requirements. If they do not win, are we looking at the potential end of Barcelona Football Club?
All right. So, fortunately, I came in while Agbede was explaining it's not about reason anymore, it's now about results. And you don't activate those economic levers to give reason to, in quotes, a newly assembled side the benefit of the doubt anymore. This is Barcelona. This is a team that have won the La Liga more than 4 or 5 times in the last decade. They've dominated the domestic league, albeit they haven't done the same on the continental stage. But would you say they would allow Real Madrid run away with the title again? Just last season, Real Madrid did run away with the title and also won the UEFA Champions League. So Barcelona have a tall order to go. I was speaking with a lot of friends, and they were like, Barcelona are getting all the players they could get in the summer. So having someone like Lewandowski, having someone like Christensen, having someone like Dembele, who is becoming prime Messi, it's I don't think they have any leverage anymore not to have results. Domestic cups, the domestic league, the Champions League. I don't know how many competitions Barcelona are in this season, maybe 3, 4, 5. They need to at least win 2. They need to get in final. And it's not just about winning. We know these winnings lead to financial gains. It leads to profit and revenue. So it's it's beyond reasonable doubt now. It's beyond benefit of the doubt. They need to win. And if they do not win, well, I can't remember. Maybe Wale Agbede will tell us the last time they were relegated to the second tier of the Spanish team, Spanish league. So maybe that would be what we'll be talking about rather than saying they won't exist as a club.
All right. This seems like a story that is going to develop over the course of the season, and we'll be able to reassess towards the tail end where Barcelona's health is. But I think we are in agreement. Barcelona must win something. Xavi must prove himself, and this team of players that have been hastily assembled. And though some would argue, and I would be amongst them, that the board have done some really good business to get the kinds of players that the likes of Chelsea were after. Don't forget, Chelsea were in it for Lewandowski and had all the money to bring him in and satisfy any problematic questions about whether the wages and the transfer fee would be paid in full. Jules Koundé was also on their list of shopping. The Rafinha had already been agreed. The deal had already been agreed with Leeds for him, and yet these 3 players all chose Barcelona as their destination. Even Dembele, even with all the issues at Barcelona, even at a time that it would be forgivable to say he was jumping ship to avoid it sinking with him still on it, he still chose to stay. Barcelona proved that they could still attract players. Now, maybe it's the romanticism of Barcelona being a destination for beautiful football, being the top 2 club in the world, maybe. But it does put a lot of pressure on them. It does put a tremendous pressure on Xavi, who's taking up his first European club. And if he doesn't live up to all the expectations, now I understand that as a homegrown player, as a homegrown manager, he may get more leeway from the fans, but even they will quickly run out of patience. Even Zidane got booed at Santiago Bernabeu. Xavi will not be immune from that. And if he's unable to win, might Barcelona be forced to sell the kinds of players that they've just recently bought? Gbenga, I throw that question to you. Might the likes of Rafinha, Jules Koundé, even Lewandowski be forced to leave next season? And even Frankie de Jong, might Barcelona be putting him on the market again by next summer if they do not win?
So I want to take a different tone, or I'll beg to differ a little bit when you said they did some good business. So yes, they brought in players. But would you call it good business? They brought in players, and few days into the start of
Lewandowski
the
is still a
league.
great striker no matter
No,
his
I'm not
age.
talking about the player profile they brought in. I'm talking
Okay,
about the financial implications to the
okay,
players they brought in.
okay.
So few days to the start of the league, about 4 or 5 players were still unregistered. 1, 2 match days were going on, and Jules Koundé was yet to be registered. They had to the president himself had to give, I don't know the adjective, to the president of the Spanish La Liga to say, okay, I'm going to stand in the gap for the club and say, allow us sign these players and we are going to make it up over the season.
But
So I wouldn't call that good business.
Okay.
I wouldn't call that good business because you got in players beyond your reach. You got in players just, I call it panic buying, right? So,
Okay.
yes, the player profiles, perfect. Strikers, defenders, in fact, they almost ransacked Chelsea Football Club. But the financial implication, and we are beginning to see it.
But
If they
okay.
had not done that, even if they don't get the required results, they may still be able to manage themselves.
Okay, Gbenga.
So now, okay.
Sorry, I'm not entirely disagreeing with you that they've taken huge risks, but
All right.
Barcelona for a time did not even have shirt sponsorship. That was because it was a romantic notion of the fact that Barcelona are not for sale. They are not up for sale for any third-party company to use their moral standing to clean their own or to give their own image a boost. Eventually, that policy changed, and Barcelona have gradually moved closer and closer to a more business model. And in business, there's always risk. Barcelona would have risked stagnation and possibly complete decline if they chose not to pursue quality players. To go for players that are beneath their current level would have been to capitulate. So they had to go for players like Lewandowski, for Rafinha, for Jules Koundé. And even when they could not register players, they managed to keep the likes of Kessie, who had already signed a contract before this last season was over. They managed to bring in Christensen from Chelsea, and even managed at the very last minute to find a way to register Marcos Alonso, who left Chelsea on a free contract. All of that seems like the books were somewhat balanced, and Barcelona have given themselves a chance to continue to be as ambitious as their fans have always known them to be. Don't you think so?
So, talking about balancing the books, are we forgetting quickly how they legally tried to blackmail one of their players to take a pay cut or leave the club? Frankie de Jong. Are we forgetting quickly how they tried to blackmail not just Frankie de Jong, Gerard Piqué, and a lot of other senior players to take a pay cut? So let's not act like everything went smoothly. Let's not act like this was calculated risk. You could take risk, but was it calculated? That's the $1 million question.
I don't disagree with you that there was some pressure applied to certain players for Barcelona to get their way. And certainly Frankie de Jong bore the brunt of that, and even fans accused him of being greedy. I completely understand that. What I find, where I choose to play devil's advocate is that it seemed like Barcelona were in a no-win situation, with players already owed wages that could not be paid. And in Frankie de Jong's case, the wages could have potentially been paid, the back wages that were owed could have potentially been paid with some of the money that would have been offered in the transfer. But the player himself did not even want to leave Barcelona. Barcelona, for me, have had to make sacrifices that have put them in positions where, for other people, they would be considered the villains of their story. But if Xavi is able to pull it off and win a trophy at the end of the season, will we even remember any of these issues?
So that's where the adage, the end justifies the means, comes in. So if the end doesn't justify the means, then we'll be back here, right?
All right, Gbenga, thank you so much for joining us on Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa. It's a pleasure having you, and I hope we can get you on again for more football analysis. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Wale, I don't know if you're still on, but I thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Mukai.
Have a wonderful day. And to everyone at home, wherever you are, this is the weekend and there's plenty of sport to be enjoyed, and particularly the Premier League fixtures, La Liga fixtures. It's all there to entertain us. So let's enjoy ourselves and our weekend. My name is Mukai Tinubu. As always, I'd like to remind you, life is never boring with some sports. Do have a wonderful day.
So I think Haaland will definitely come out on top on that match. I mean, like, is a no-brainer for that match. Man City is going to win them by far draw, and maybe Diego Costa will kind of try and take back his shine, but I don't think he will have significant impact in that match so much like that.
Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, sure winning for Real Madrid. If you look at when Ancelotti took over, you see their matches from the Champions League final. They haven't lose, right? They haven't lose. So I believe they will carry league again.
With the likes of Diego Costa joining Wolves, I still don't think Wolves can be able to play Man City right now. So I believe Man City should be able to beat Wolves, even right in their own home. If I check other La Liga teams so far, with the way they've been playing since they started, I think Real Madrid has an edge for now.